So, the next campaign ship was announced. Let's talk about it. The ship you see behind me is the Tulsa. Released today was a video from World of Warships, and it looks like that's coming into the game. Very likely it's going to be the next campaign. Having limited knowledge, okay, of the PC version, I remember the Tulsa. I remember watching people like Flamu and Flambass play it. And when I heard that this thing was coming into the game, I was told this thing is going to be a beast. It's going to be really good. And I remember it not being very good on PC. So I went back and I watched some of those first games, you know, opinions, stuff like that. And I will show you what Flamu says about the boat here in about 2 minutes. Bear in mind, yes, it is different from PC to console, but when they port these ships over, they make minor tweaks. Some boats don't get any tweaks. Some boats get a little bit more tweaking, like Petro going from 50k to 45k, you know, it's still OP. Would they buff the Tulsa when they brought it over to Legends? That's the question, because from what I saw on PC, the thing needed buffs on PC. Now, if you don't know what the Tulsa is, it's basically a Baltimore hull, so tier 7 armor, with the Des Moines triple gun, but they remove the middle barrel. So you only get 6 shells. It does have that like 5-second reload-ish, 5-ish seconds. The concealment is supposed to be pretty good, like 9.5, 10 kilometers, something like that. So you might be able to work out like a stealth radar build where when you get spotted, you can pop your radar and anything that's spotting you, like a DD, will be spotted. That's stealth radar. But here's the big kicker. It only has like 14.5 range on PC, and they want to bring it into Legends. If they give it something like 14.5 kilometer range, ooh boy, that is going to be a dumpster fire. Surely they're going to bump it up. I mean, I would think it would need like 16 kilometer range minimum, because you got to realize it's going in at tier 8. It's not going in at tier 7. Even at tier 7, I would want a lot more than 14 kilometer range. I don't have a cruiser in the game at high tiers that has anything sub 15. So we'll see if they end up tweaking the boat to make it better. Usually when it comes to Legends, they end up nerfing stuff. Keep that in mind as well. But you got to realize this thing going in at tier 8 means it's going to be fighting against Legendary tier primarily. Yes, you do get some 8 only games, and occasionally an 8 goes into a 7 game, but I'm just thinking back to all the games I've played in Petro recently, the last 2 weeks, just 3 weeks, spamming Petro. It's mostly goes to Legendary tier. And the thing is, Petro can get away with it. Aegir that just came out can get away with it. I don't think this thing would. Think back to whenever Baltimore had to fight Yamato, Conqueror, Kurfürst. That was not a very good fight if you were spotted. You got touched inappropriately. Well, that's what this thing is going to have to do. Fight those battleships. And the thing is, if you go to fight those big overmatched battleships, you either want 2 things. You want to, 1, sit behind an island and not be spotted and lob the corner of a rock. Or 2, you want range on your side. You want to be 18 kilometers away going full speed so you can dodge 90% of the things they throw at you. But if this thing has 14.5 range, ooh, that's that time to travel, that shell time, you're going to get hurt. But I'm done talking. Let's go see what Flamu says about the boat. Okay, so it's just not very many shells.
This range is rough. I'll say that right now. This range is just rough.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big problem.
Mode, but I feel like if I go range mode, then the whole gimmick of having good DPM goes kind of
yeah.
window, so.
Okay.
Dude, what the fuck? Man, low range ships are so limited. That's really the biggest issue. They're just too limited.
See? He makes a pretty good point here. So I mean,
finally broke the gun.
You are limited, so you have. It seems like it's got the Des Moines pin right at tier 8, which means you're fighting Legendary tier. But the lack of shells, to me, is kind of disturbing. All right, let's get his opinion on it, then we'll talk.
Honestly, I'm not very impressed by this ship.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
I'm not very impressed by this ship.
That's not a good sign.
I'm just not really feeling it. Yeah, I don't know. This was pretty just
interesting thing.
Range mode, I feel would help you.
Yeah.
Because the default range is so
Dude,
dreadful.
14.9. That's on PC.
You kind of lose out on one of the main gimmicks, which is the damage output.
5.1 reload. Again, that's PC,
know.
but Ooh. So they usually on PC have more range. Reload times I feel like are fairly similar, but I feel like you end up having more range on PC. They might end up bumping that up here for Legends too, because even at 14.9, I couldn't imagine playing a cruiser with 14.9 at tier 8. That's insane.
Tulsa lacking the Demine armor is rough.
Let's talk about the Baltimore
I
hull.
don't think it's a bad ship per se, but the range really is such a limiting factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think he's onto one there. Like, I think you could probably get away with the Des Moines guns, just minus a barrel. But I feel like you just have to have that range. He goes on and talks about it, but he ends up saying, why would you play this thing unless it was like a specific rank? So for us, like if it was tier 8 ranked, which who even plays ranked anymore, let's be really honest. Maybe he said I could see this thing being okay. Maybe even decent. But as far as just going into standard battle, you're probably going to end up fighting legendary more than you fight tier 7. At least that's how it is for me. Sure, this thing would be probably pretty decent in tier 7. I think it's going to be below par at tier 8, especially with the Aegir that just came out and the Petropavlovsk. But as far as this thing going into legendary tier, yikes. Have fun with that Baltimore armor. And then 14.9 for the range. You're going to have to play this thing. To make this thing really work, I think you're going to have to play this thing on the feathered edge. Like, you're going to have to play it really well. That's just my opinion. But that range... On top of that, the speed, the maneuverability of this thing, it's not, like, quick. From what I have understood, it's supposed to have pretty good concealment. Doesn't make that much sense because it is a Baltimore. Not like it's a different class or a different hull. But that's kind of the gimmick, right? Is you have really good concealment, so maybe you can try to do a stealth radar build. But then if you have to like go to kite away, you're gonna have 2 barrels over the rear and then 4 up front. That's just not that much DPM there. And on top of that, you don't really have the armor to get shot at that much by a majority of the things at the tier and then above you up into legendary tier. So I don't know. I mean, it's really disappointing because Tulsa is where I live. So obviously I would become a Tulsa main. That's just how that works. But I honestly think as a free-to-play player, they're not going to get my money for this ship. Looking at it now, things might change whenever it comes time. But looking at it now, I just don't see Tulsa being worth your money at all. Hope this helps you make a decision in the future when the boat comes out. Stick around for an update whenever we do get the stats and all that. We'll cross compare them to PC and we'll see exactly where it stands. But I have a feeling it's going to be fairly similar. Now, if Wargaming wants to prove me wrong, give this thing a 7.5 concealment. If you give it a 7.5 concealment with a 9-kilometer radar, 30 seconds, it might be kind of spicy. It might be kind of fun. But as it sits right now, I think this is a hard pass for me. Take it easy, everybody. Be good. I'm gone. Peace.